Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It is the month of May. It's May 7th, and you've reached Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And I hope everyone's having a great week so far. And we do have an amazing show again tonight. But before we bring on our first guest, I do want to just make the announcement about next week's amazing show, Black Authors Matter TV Awards. We do this every year, and the most compelling interviews in 14 categories. You all voted, and the winners are going to receive their awards and be announced next Tuesday night, right here from 7 to 9 p.m. It's always a grand night, and we look forward to it. So for our first guest, and we have some announcements that we'll make at the end of this first interview, but we'll bring on our first guest, and she's written an amazing children's book. It's called Slavery and the African American Story, and she's going to tell you why she decided to make this a children's book topic, but she does it from a child's perspective, and it's a very informative book and a timely book. So Patricia Williams Dockery, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So full disclosure, slavery and the African American story is oh, sorry, you can't see it, is a part of, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I see you put it in front of you.
Oh, I can't, okay, yeah.
Put it in front of you and close to you. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, awesome. So it is in a series of books, the Race to the Truth series, which Penguin Random House has developed. So this one is about African American history. There's one about Native American history, Chinese exclusion in America and in American history, etc. So mine was one of the first two that came out. And so I actually was approached to write the book because I had written a young adult novel, and my editor thought that I was the right person to do this book. And I have to say that because I'm an anthropologist and I teach African American history and culture, I'm a Black nationalist. I am for our people, and I believe wholeheartedly in the importance of education. I jumped at the opportunity to write this book. In terms of developing the scope and the outline, all of that was mine. They just wanted a topic. They wanted the topic to be this topic, but I developed, every bit of information that is in the book. And so I'm really proud about it. And it is even though it's written for middle schoolers, I think everybody should read it.
Sure. And
I was just going to ask.
It was still your inspiration. You would just approach because you're so inspirational with what you do.
You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
And you're an instructor at Morgan State University?
Yeah, so I'm Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs and was just newly promoted to full professor there. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been in this teaching game for a long time. But I've always been, I think that I've always been like that 7th and 8th grader, standing in front of the class, like reading my stories. And this gave me the opportunity to write a story that we often don't hear. Much of the material that I cover in this book have been left out of the courses that I took even in graduate school. And I hope that it clears up a lot of misinformation that we have about what happened to our people and the fact that they were resilient and they resisted, you know what I'm saying? So yes.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about some of the material that's in the K through 12, I say, but especially K through 9, about our history here. And it's kind of glossed over. It's one chapter, if that, and some more expansive information is needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe that the reason why it's glossed over is because, you know, the majority, you know, white folks don't want to necessarily hear about what their ancestors, you know, did.
And it's very hard, it's probably very hard for them to teach as well. I mean, even if they're open-minded and they're a student of history, it's very hard to teach something, I think, you know, that says that my ancestors probably enslaved your ancestors, or my ancestors were mean, or we're prejudiced, or so forth. It's kind of hard for them to say that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, but one of the things that the book dispels is the fact that, you know, most slave owners you know, did not have these massive Gone with the Wind plantations.
Yes.
And many you know, there were poor white folks who were not slave owners as well. But we need to understand that African American history is American history. It's our shared history. A couple of points that I just feel like, you know, we just need to go on the record and talk about is, when I grew up, I learned that, you know, like millions of enslaved Africans were brought to the United States. Now, the truth of the matter is there were upwards of 10, 12 million and probably more enslaved Africans that were captured from the west coast of Africa, Senegambia, Angola, and those places, West Central Africa. But only 3% of those captured Africans came to the United States. So we're talking about, you know, roughly about 400,000 trafficked Africans came to the United States. We also know that it was 2 to 1 men to women. And so one of the chapters in my book is on the research of my former graduate student. Now she's a newly minted PhD, Dr. Jennifer Caldwell. She is a geneticist at LSU. It's based on her research. And what we know is that those 71,000, roughly 71,000 African women are the mitochondrial mothers to all of us African Americans today, because there were like roughly 400,000 enslaved Africans who were captured Africans who were here. And of that, only 71,000 were Black women. So talk about Black girl magic. We are, you know, the descendants of 71,000, only 71,000 Black women. Now, of course, you know, through the years and years and years of, you know, importation and just, you know, slavery, domestic slavery in the country after the international transport was abolished, was prohibited. You know, by the end of slavery, we had you know, roughly, you know, upwards of 2-3 million enslaved people in the South. So that says that, you know, it tells us a lot. It tells us about the experiences of those Black women. It tells us the experience of Black women and men in terms of how they were bred to have more children. But it says a lot about our resilience and our staying power. And so I was happy to include that in the book.
Yeah, a lot of, I'm glad you led with numbers, because, you know, numbers don't lie, as I say. And it's amazing that all of us are the product of a relatively small number of people.
Yes.
And generations after generations. And as you said, even after they stopped bringing Africans here, there were still people on plantations that were considered property and that were expected to give, you know, the women were expected to give birth as much as possible so they could have workers.
which actually led to the wealth of white Southerners, right? Because before, there was an international thing, but now, I could just a white man could just go and purchase someone from a Virginia slave trafficker versus waiting for someone to bring a cargo of, people from Africa. So that, it was important to include that. And also the fact that, we had sitting presidents who were slave owners, and that, the colonists were toiling with the idea of slavery even before the United States was formed. I also, would want everyone to know that there were Black people who were coming to the quote unquote New World or North America with the conquistadors, from places like Portugal, who were coming, with the Portuguese and with the Spaniards, to places like St. Augustine, Florida. And then, of course, eventually St. Augustine and Fort Mose in Florida becomes a refuge for runaway enslaved people later in the history. So I feel
about St. Augustine. That's interesting. We read in the books that, all the slaves ran north. We don't think about them going to St. Augustine, Florida. So
exactly.
that's really interesting that you included that.
Yeah. And also the fact that, when they got to St. Augustine, it wasn't just that, it was them, it was also indigenous people. And of course, the welcome to the enslaved, runaways there was actually, it was political also, because of course, the Spaniards knew that if they, were welcoming, the enslaved people to their area, that gave them an advantage, right? It was taking an advantage from, the British colonists. So, but still, the Black folks took advantage of that. And, Fort Mose was a thriving place for runaways. In the book that I'm writing now, I recently discovered that not only did enslaved Africans in this country and African Americans go to places like Fort Mose, and also north. But there's a place called the Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia, which I never even knew about. But it was a place where runaways went closer to the plantations that they fled. And it was there that they met indigenous people, other runaways, and some, white scoundrels who were, a motley crew of people. And so they built communities there. We've contributed so much. Our ancestors contributed so much to language, to medicine. One factoid that I think is really important coming off the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic was that we get the practice or the procedure of inoculation from a man named Onesimus. And Onesimus was an enslaved person who told Cotton Mather, you probably remember your American history from way back in the day with the colonists and all that, but the Puritans, all that. But Cotton Mather, that he had this vision, and he remembered that in his homeland, that the people treated these pox that he had on his skin by like squeezing the pustules and then like putting the liquid back onto his sores. Well, that's essentially what we do for, inoculations, right? We put a little bit of that virus back into the body. And because of that, Cotton Mather took on that procedure, tried it out, and saved, folks who were dying of smallpox in the colonies. So we owe, the fact that we all got our COVID, those of us who got our COVID-19 vaccines, in part to, an enslaved Black man named Onesimus.
Yeah, you really touched on some amazing topics. One of the things that you talked about when you were saying that a person, potential slave owner, didn't have to wait until the next cargo ship came. He could just go to another plantation and purchase a slave. It's also a part of that is that the Africans that came on the ships had to be indoctrinated. Sometimes it was very difficult because they were free people. Whereas a person born on a plantation is born into slavery, and that's all they know, which, would make them more able to be trained and taught, and more subservient naturally, just because they don't know any different. They've been born into it.
Yeah, yeah, but even with that, man and woman yearn to be free, and so there were, countless, thousands of people who, even though they may have been African American born enslaved people, born into slavery, that yearning to, seeing the discernment, and Black folks are genius. They understood the imbalance, and so many of them did rebel. I think even though there was the minority that was ruling the majority, because we know during the antebellum South, in places like Charleston, South Carolina, Blacks were the majority, and there were minority white folks who ruled. But Black folks did do what they could to resist. Some of them outwardly did things like, poison their captors, or, fight back, or, lead rebellions like, Denmark VC of South Carolina. And then there were, of course, those people who resisted doing the day-to-day work. In the book, I talk about how some would kind of feign like they were either ill or that they didn't know, what they were being told to do. And that was a way to sort of usurp the white man's, authority over them. Because if you're like, oh, well, I don't understand, or I can't do it, then, they in some instances would kind of, get fed up if they think, oh, this character is dim-witted or what have you. But,
we still see that today with some of the people who work for us,
Absolutely, absolutely. That is a way of exerting one's power, right? So
absolutely. Now,
I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think all humans inherently could be free people. But if you've been born into slavery, you may not know exactly how,
Exactly.
But we all have that wanting to be free. And, some people act on it, and some people act on it in different ways,
Right.
as you were describing. And that same thing continued on even after we were free from slavery. I know that, but we want to focus on that since that's what your book is about. And so, Rhonda, you were going to interject something next.
Well, I was going to ask something, actually. I wasn't going to interject. But it just sounds like a lot of information. And I'm just, how were you able to break this down to where a middle schooler could not only understand it, but really immerse themselves in this information?
Yeah, I wrote a lot in middle school ease. First I got all my facts on paper. I had done a magazine when I was at the College of Charleston. I was there for about 10 years. And we did it for the state of South Carolina. It's called the South Carolina Black History Bugle, and it's still on the Avery Research Center's website. So when we did that, I told my staff then, think of it as like highlights for Black people, right? And so I put highlights, right?
Remember highlights.
Yes. So I put on my highlights, but my middle school hat, because I have a millennial kids. No, they're millennials. Yeah. So I just kind of channeled that, and when I was thinking about it, I thought about all the exercises that if I were a teacher, I would want kids to do, and some of the discussion questions. So I did way more than Penguin Random House was expecting. I mean, I put timelines in. I just, just all of that. And then after that, I went back and read it again to make sure I sounded like a middle schooler. And at that point, that's when I sent it back to Penguin Random House, and they were happy with it. I will have to say, I also put my kids to work. They did the teacher's guide for the publisher, because I was done after like editing it over and over and over and over again.
Well, I'm sure doing such a deep dive of information, your mind was probably on overload as well.
Oh my God, yes. But the great thing about it was I wrote the draft during COVID. So that helped because I was home. So now y'all pray my strength, because I have like 7,000 more words to write on the next book, and I'm delivering it at the end of the month.
Wow. So and it goes, the next draft is the next book you're talking about.
Yeah, it goes from 1851 to the Obamas.
Oh, wow. So is it related? So it's related to the current book?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So it will go from 1851. It'll deal with the Nebraska-Kansas Act, and then it'll go to Civil War, Reconstruction, all the way. So it is so much stuff in this book that I am like, oh my gosh. But it was important for me to include stop at the Obamas. Originally, we were going to stop at George Floyd, but it just got to be so big. Like it would have been like reading Black Reconstruction by Du Bois or something. It's too much. But because in the second book, I have a section on the Black people who built the White House. And I had found an article where First Lady Michelle Obama had talked about sort of the irony and, of being there, knowing that Black people had built it. So it starts with that, and then it'll bookend with them going to the White House. So, it's a good way to start to move from where we are in this book. This book ends with a flash forward and deals with public history and monuments and unearthing, evidence of the African American and enslaved African experience in this country. On the cover of the book, I want to point out, this is our what we think that Oni Judge would look like, and just Oni Judge she was considered a dour slave, and I want to just make clear that I use the term enslaved people in the book
instead of calling them actual slaves,
right? But enslaved people. But when we are dealing with laws or transcripts or the primary sources, we do use the vernacular of the day. I in the beginning of the book, I distinguish between what we use today versus what they used back then. So I just wanted to say that. So when I say she was a dour slave, I didn't want to say she was a dour enslaved person, but she was considered a dour slave. And a dour slave was a person who was passed down through inheritance. And so she was passed down to Martha Washington, the wife of our first chief commander, George Washington.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And she escaped and made her way all the way to Canada. And even though George Washington writes, about, his sort of conflicting feelings around slavery and all of this, yada, yada, yada. I mean, he was a slave owner as a child. I mean, he inherited enslaved people from his father and then acquired them. And then being Martha's husband, he had the whole kit and caboodle. And he didn't just say, well, I'm so conflicted, y'all are all free. No. He did write in his will that they would be free. And
while I'm here, y'all got to do.
Exactly. So I have to be dead.
Exactly.
You to have some freedom.
I know.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, that's ballsy. Let me just
exactly. But that's white supremacy too, right? White male supremacy. But we won't let Martha off the hook because he dies first, and then she doesn't want to like let his people go.
Well, she's not gonna do any actual work.
Well, right. And actually,
She's not used to working, and now you're saying
that's what I'm
because her
saying.
husband died, now she has to go to work.
She's not gonna do any
right,
work.
right. And technically they were quote unquote hers, the ones that we're referencing here. But the bottom line is only Judge got away from those jokers, and she, you know, lived out her days. She did an interview for a journalist that ran in a paper, and so I include excerpts from that article. Sadly, she did, you know, die impoverished, but she died on her own terms. She did not die being the servant, the handmaiden of, you know, someone. She was not someone's property. She was able to breathe air as a free person, and live freely. So for me, resistance and resilience go hand in hand and lockstep with the genius of our ancestors and all that they were forced to contribute to this nation. And you know that we are the beneficiaries of, you know.
Beautiful.
We owe them so much.
We have a number of people in the comments who are asking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They're asking.
So go ahead, Ron, because I was gonna do that next. People are asking questions.
Oh, okay.
About one person in particular said, how can she get a few of the first book as gifts? And she said she can't wait for the second book.
So she can purchase the book on Amazon. So their price so economically, they're just $8.99. So you can purchase them there on the Penguin page. Yeah.
Yeah, I did put the Penguin link in the chat. So if anybody's watching and you'd like to order the book, you can just click on the link that we put in the chat and you can order the book that way. Are people able to get signed copies?
Yeah. So if they want to get signed copies, tell them to they'll need to just email me. We'll have to figure it out because I do have some books here. They can buy them from me and I can send them to them. So just if you would want to give them my email address, that's perfectly fine.
Well, what we can do, because we're at the end of the show, if you can email me back your information about how people can get the autographed copies, and then we'll put it in the chat put it in the chat after the show, and then people can get your book. So I have one final question, if you can answer it kind of sort of quickly. I don't know if it's a quick answer or not, but what kind of response are you getting from the schools that have adopted your book or required the book?
Great response from Black teachers, white administrators, Black administrators, Black kids. So great response. You know, I haven't, you know, no one has said ban this book yet, but that's probably because they just, you know, the people who are doing a ban and don't really know about it yet. But you know, sometimes banning the book is like the best thing that they could do because
when they ban your book, that means you're about to sell 1 million copies.
Yeah, so banned books become bestsellers. So
absolutely. So yes.
It makes them people want them. So and you know, people might not have heard about the book if it wasn't banned. You know, it's having a reverse effect than what I believe was intended. So
yes.
Anyway, Patricia, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Office
Yes, truly enjoyed the conversation, and you're right down the street from me. I live in the DMV as well. I'm in Accokeek, Maryland, and you're in Baltimore, right?
Okay, I'm in Potomac. I work in Baltimore. I live in Potomac.
Oh, you're in Potomac. You with the rich folks. Okay,
with Dr. Rhonda, please let's get together.
Yes, let's get together.
Yes, I appreciate you all thinking of me, and I'll get whoever needs some books, and we may be able to get some free books. I can ask Penguin. So if there's some teachers that need some, to just send me a little note.
That's wonderful.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Care, y'all. Okay.
Right. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was an amazing conversation. I have a couple of housekeeping notes. May 21st, which is 2 weeks from now, we have our book club kickback with Alyssa Cole. And those who want to participate in the conversation The book is One of Us Knows. It's a new book. And I believe, Rhonda, this is going to be the first book I'm going to listen to. I've never listened to a book. So,
Okay.
but Audible had a 30-day free trial. I'm a believer in free trials, and then I cancel on the 28th day. But I am going, I think I'm going to listen to this one just to see how it goes. And for those who want to register for National Black Book Festival, we already have confirmed all of our featured authors for this year. You can find them on the website. And if you want to register, we do expect to sell out of our vendor space by June. And finally, before we bring on our next guest, Rhonda, I wanted to let you know that I finally got a chance to watch American Fiction.
Oh, really?
I
How'd
watched
you like it?
it had a whole bunch of laugh out loud moments
Mm-hmm.
when the things that he was trying to do, he couldn't do. And for those who haven't seen it, I'm even thinking about maybe having a segment where we discuss that movie because it's totally relevant to what we talk about every week. And he was trying to write one way, the industry just wanted to put him in a box. And
Right.
then he thought he was breaking out of the box, and he said, this is one of the best quotes. He said, the dumber I act, the richer I get, or something like that.
Yeah.
The stupider I appear to be, the more money they offer me.
Yeah. It's so funny. He wrote that book thinking that they were going to reject it, and
Right.
they
And then when he did the title that he wanted to change it to, and his agent said, no, we can't do that. And he did it, and they were like, we love it. After they thought about it. It was so upset. It was a satire, but it had a lot of realism to it. And
Yes.
he did a very good job in that role. The actor did. Right. His last name is Wright. What's his first name?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. He did a really good job. So our next guest is Farrah Rochon. I think I'm pronouncing her first name right, like Farrah. But
Yeah, I believe you.
she's been on the show, but it's been a while. She was on the show the first year of Black Authors Matter TV. And
So long ago.
yeah, a long time ago in 2020 was when she was on. And so she's been writing up a storm and traveling, and she's even writing in another genre now, which it may not be new, but it was new to me. So we'll find out. And she just got back from somewhere where I'm planning to go next year, and that's Greece. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Or I should say welcome back.
Hi, Miss Gwen. Yes, it's been a while. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
How was your trip?
Amazing. Greece, I don't know why it took me so long to get there, because I've wanted to go forever, and I could go back tomorrow. It was so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter went last year on a trip there, and she loved it. And so next year, she and I are going on a Mediterranean cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Greece, and she loves Santorini, I think the best, but she loved the whole thing.
That's one of my regrets. The whole time I was living in Europe, that was one country I did not make it to, and I was so upset. So now I have to go back.
You do, and Santorini was definitely my favorite of the three places we visited. So yeah, I could go back, like I said.
One thing I did do is where I lived, they used to have a big multicultural festival, and I used to like to go to the Greeks tent because the Greeks had the best olive oil. They had the best some of the best wine. They had great food. So we loved the Greek festival.
Yeah.
So I have to go back.
I came back with both wine and olive oil in my suitcase. So.
I became an olive oil snob after that.
She came back with some spices, because I cook. I like to cook. And she normally will get me spices because I get to use them on different dishes. And she said the food was amazing.
It was. I've been eating it since I came back. I went into New Orleans to the the one shop that sells, homemade pitas, and I've been eating Greek food since I came back. So highly recommend going. Yes, very much.
Okay, well, you've been doing a lot of writing, and you're now doing the young adult fiction. It looks like it's the not horror, but supernatural thriller. How would you characterize it?
So it is. I just had my second Twisted Tale with Disney. It's a young adult, more of a fantasy fairy tale / I guess paranormal series. Some of them are, mine are more historical fantasy fairy tale books. But it's a long running series that they have, and it's basically just a twist on classic Disney movies. Basically, what if this had happened instead of what actually happened in the movie?
That makes it fun.
Yeah, it is. It's very fun because anybody who knows me knows I am a huge Disney fan. So getting to play around with their characters is pretty cool. I did have the second full length, but I was also a part of an anthology where I wrote 3 short stories, which was also a first for me. I've been doing a lot of firsts these last couple of years after so many years writing. It's cool to, do things that are new and different and fresh for me.
So
So
you
yeah,
have 18 Twisted Tales, correct?
I think they're up to 17 or 18. I've done 2. It's 5 now, 5 different authors who write for the series. And the first one I did was The Princess and the Frog. I'm pointing because I know he's right back there. I could probably take it off the shelf. It's Almost There, which is a twist on The Princess and the Frog, one of my favorite movies. And the one that I just did that came out a month ago, it is called Fate Be Changed, and it's a twist on the movie Brave.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, now I have to ask about Princess and the Frog because Princess and the Frog is based on Leah Chase. So
Yes.
How did that go? How did you change that story up?
Well, in my story, at the end of the movie, instead of killing off the Shadow Man, Tiana actually makes a deal with him.
Ooh.
And she's kind of forced to make a deal with him, but she gets to have her father come back, and they get to open the restaurant that she always did. But of course, there are consequences to everything. And it turns out that the deal she made with him, it caused some really bad things to start happening to the city of New Orleans. So she basically changed everything for the city by making that deal.
Wow.
It's a fun.
A lot of adults wanting to read these stories because I know that these are children's stories, but this sounds so intriguing that it makes me want to, my little 50-year-old self pick it up.
No, it is. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I guess a little about, how many adults, because it is young adult. They say 12 to 18 years old is what it's supposed to be written for. They're a lot darker than the movies, so they're definitely not for younger kids. But yeah, so many adults read it, the entire series, and so many of them have contacted me about the Tiana book. And there's some pretty, deep themes in it. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely, though geared to young adults read them all the time. That's who I get more, fan mail and stuff from. I get it from adults. Yeah.
Interesting. But I would, some people, the young adult fiction is going to be maybe less deep, for lack of a better way of saying it. Maybe a little bit lighter, not as dark as an adult dark book.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. I mean, I use the examples of Harry Potter, which were supposed to be young readers, and a lot of adults were reading the series.
Yeah.
And then it's also Children of Blood and Bone, which is supposed to be a young reader, And I picked it up not knowing it was a young reader and didn't realize it was a young reader until I got deep into the story and realized that the characters were kids. But it was such an intriguing story, it made me want to keep going. So
Yeah.
sometimes a good story is a good story, no matter what the age level.
Yeah, I definitely think the Twisted Tales falls in that category where, you know, it is young adult, but there are definitely some dark themes and things that I like to say that the young adult books today are not like they were back when I was reading young adult. You know, they're definitely not fluffy. You can get into some pretty serious stuff. And even this would be in Disney. They gave me a lot of leeway to make this story a lot darker and a lot deeper than the movie. You know, I had 400 plus pages in which to delve into Tiana's background and get into things like the social status in the 1920s. This is Jim Crow South. You know, it's a lot less Disney-fied, I like to say, than what Disney does in their movies. So yeah, I got to explore a lot of themes that you wouldn't necessarily think Disney movie, you know, kids. It's a really good series. I'm having the best time writing it. And when I was in Greece, I actually got the chance to announce my next book with Disney, which is going to be it's going to be published in January of next year, but it is an origin story of the Muses from Hercules. So
Ooh.
I am so excited about it. And I got to announce it live from the Acropolis in Athens. So it was like the coolest, you know,
That
book
is so
ever.
cool.
Wow. So what was it? Did you go there for business to do that, or
Oh no,
were you on vacation and you just did it while you were on vacation?
oh, no, it just happened to line up that
Okay.
the book, because everything is very secret when it comes to Disney. They try to keep everything close to the vest.
Mhm.
And the cover hasn't been revealed yet, but someone showed me that the book was already on Amazon for a pre-order. And I thought, oh my goodness, no one is supposed to know about this yet. So uh, I contacted them and I said, well, since the cat's already out of the bag, I'm going to,
Right.
wouldn't this be cool? And they thought, yeah, that would be cool. So do it. So it just lined up perfectly
See,
with
that's
my
what you
vacation.
call support. They just say, go ahead and do it. It's going to be cool. We know you're going to do a good job. I love it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
support and trust.
yeah. So it was awesome. It was awesome. And that book is probably the most fun I've had writing a book. So I can't wait to reveal the cover and have people read, you know, the origin story of the Muses. They're fun.
Wonderful.
Now
Now
you
you're going to
went
get the, go ahead, Gwen.
well, no, you go. I remember my question.
No, I was just saying you're going to be at the Black Ink Festival later this
Yes,
month as well. And
it's a Saturday. Yeah.
oh my goodness, it's this coming Saturday?
Yes.
You're right, it is this coming Saturday. Time
Charleston?
flies.
Isn't it in Charleston?
No, it's gonna be in New Orleans.
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans. Oh, okay. Okay. There
Yes,
was another Black Ink something that I thought was in Charleston.
no, I
I
don't know about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I might have the name wrong of the event. But
Okay.
but you're gonna be there, Farrah. And
yes.
now what is that? Is that the one you were talking about, Rhonda, where they have films too?
No, I was talking about the New Orleans film festival that has
Oh,
movies.
okay.
Yeah. No, the Black
Yeah.
Ink Festival is a pretty huge writers festival. This is actually the second year that they're doing it in person. They were doing it online since 2020, and then Farrah was actually invited this year. I don't know if you went last year.
I did. I
Oh,
did
okay.
the first one, and it was amazing. I was so impressed. It takes place in City Park, the pavilion, the Court of Two Sisters Pavilion, I think it's called. And it was so well attended. It was so well just organized. You know, the way it was organized was wonderful. So yes, I'm looking so forward to attending again. I think there's 85 authors who are
Yes.
going to be there. I'm one of the featured authors. So There's a stage throughout the day where they bring featured authors up on stage and, you know, hold interviews, but the entire time people are getting their books signed and chatting. It was just so awesome last year. So I was so happy that she was doing it again. It's Michelle Jackson who put this together. So yeah, I will be there. Unfortunately, I guess fortunately, I have a book that just came out, but unfortunately the one that's coming out, you can see it up here. I always also have it here. It doesn't come out for another couple of weeks, so I won't have my new romance. So
Oh, but that's
for people to
okay.
buy,
You
but
can just tell everybody about it.
exactly, I will have it because I'm actually launching the pre-order campaign for this book tomorrow. And it's very special because I'm partnering with a local animal rescue. It's part of my French. I keep saying, you know, showing it. It's called Part of My Frenchie.
Frenchy, like part of my French or whatever, but you did
Yeah.
Frenchy. Okay.
French as in a French bulldog. It's set in a doggy daycare that's set in New Orleans. And I am partnering with a local animal rescue where I'm giving $1 for every book that's pre-ordered through one of my local indies. I've just, you know, I'm dog people. We're dog people in my family, and most of them have been rescues. So I thought, you know, instead of buying a bunch of like stickers and stuff that people usually do for pre-order campaigns, why not give that money to a place that can really use it? So I will be asking people to pre-order on Saturday and, you know, until the book releases on June 4th. But I'm excited. I'm excited about launching the pre-order campaign tomorrow and on Saturday, meeting up with some author friends who will be there and just all the people who came out last year. I'm hoping we get some of them this year too, because it was fabulous last year.
Oh, that's nice. And such kind words about Michelle. I just recently met Michelle face to face, and well, face to face over Zoom, but it's still face to face. And yeah, she's a very nice lady. She's doing a lot of great things in the literary community. So I'm really happy for her and what she's doing with Black Ink Festival.
Yeah, it should be good.
Now, how is it? How do you manage shifting from one genre to another with your writing? With romance, and then
and how many genres are you writing in?
So it is just the YA fantasy, and of course I'm always going to write romance. That's what I've been doing forever. I love it. But when the opportunity came to write for Disney and to write in YA, I had to take it because I love Disney and I just thought it would be a cool challenge. And it actually works better than I thought. I kind of see it as each book is a palate cleanser. You know, it's like I write a romance and then I switch to the YA book and it's like, okay, it's something different. And by the time I'm done with the YA, it's time to write another romance. It's like, oh, cool, I get to play with this again. So it's actually, I think, because even writing YA romance, I think it wouldn't be as much fun. I think the fact that even though there is a little romance in both of all three now of the books I've written for Disney, there's just a touch of romance because I have to have that. It's not, you know, it's not the sole purpose of the book. It's not the genre. So it's different enough to where, like I said, it's a little palate cleanser. I get to play in these two different worlds and it just works.
That's really, really good to hear. And there are people who are writing in multiple genres, switching from one to another altogether, or like before, you know?
Yeah. It keeps it fun, it keeps it interesting. You don't feel like you've put yourself into a box, and you get to exercise your writing chops on something new.
Yes, I didn't realize I was as creative as I am. This really writing the fantasy, because I always said that I never wanted to write something where I had to create my own world or historical because you have to do so much research with that. And basically the Disney books are all of those things I always said I would never write. Historical, both of them, all three of them now have been historical in ways, and lots of fantasy. But it's really cool. And I remember the first time with the Tiana book, my editor could tell I was holding back, and she said, just let your imagination run wild. And when I did, I just started having fun. It was just so fun and so different, that yeah, I really like going between the two, and I really like writing the young adult fantasies as well.
I was actually just going to ask, when you're writing these young adult fantasy books, I know you said that you didn't want to do all of the research that it would take to do a historical fiction book or a science fiction book. I know a lot of times science fiction authors say that they can do it. It's not that much research. Yes, it is. You have to make all of that make sense.
Yeah.
But when you're writing these young adult books, are you just really just letting your imagination go wild and you're writing down what's in your imagination, or do you have to really work hard to still, in a way, try to stay true to the original story?
That's the one thing that's different with the books I write. I am dealing with Disney stories. And even though it's a twist and we get to go off on, do our own thing, we still have to respect the characters in that world they've created. And believe me, they will let me know if I've gone a little too far with things. So it is unlike if it were a book that I just came up with the story myself. I do have to stay in the parameters of the Disney story. So, but I also realized after a while that I have to do a ton of research no matter what. Like, pardon my Frenchie, I love dogs, but I've never had a doggy daycare. I've never put my dog at a real doggy daycare before. And then the hero in my book is ex-military. And even though I have a lot of military people in my family, I still had to do a ton of research on that. And, owning a business, my heroine she owns her own business. It's just a lot. You have to do the research no matter what. And when I came to that realization, I realized, yeah, I got to do the work no matter what. So you just make it work for the books. But no matter what, it's all fun too, because this book, I think of it as my first true rom-com. I know people talked about my other series as being a rom-com. I think it was a little heavier than that. I think any book that has a illustrated cover, people like to call them rom-coms now. This one, I think, is a rom-com. I just wanted something fun that would make me laugh and hopefully make other people laugh. And I just think having the cute dogs in it makes it, just makes it a lot more fun.
Now, one thing, can you hold up the book behind you? The other one.
Which one? The Disney one?
Behind the Disney one. I just wanted people to see if they can maybe see when they do the hardcover and it's a young adult, it's YA fiction, they are smaller than your standard hardcover.
It's not that much bigger than, this is a trade paperback.
Right.
And yeah, they're a little, they're not that much bigger. It's a thick book. I think
very thick. What is that, 400 pages, you say?
I think this one, I know let's see, according to this, 450 some odd pages.
Yeah, but they're smaller inside.
But they're smaller, so yeah.
The word count's probably less than a standard 450 page book would be.
Yeah, it was about an 85,000 word book, I think. And I actually just listened to a snippet of the audiobook last night because I knew that they had a Scottish narrator doing the narration for it. So I wanted to see how it sounded, because believe it or not, that is the first book I have ever written that are white characters. That for the first time I wrote, so that it occurred to me that this is not, there are no Black characters in there. It's set in 10th century Scotland, and it's based on the movie Brave. So I had, even though they do have Black characters in Brave, but none of the main characters are. So it's been, kind of a revelation, and also just kind of cool to hear this Scottish narrator reading my words. I thought she did a good job. And although I never listened to my own books, I actually may listen to this one because I love her, the way she's reading it so much. I may have to listen to this one. Yeah.
Well, I've got to say congratulations. I was looking at, well, first of all, you already have 56 reviews for Fate Be Changed. But then I looked at Almost There, and you're over 1,300. So the books are hitting the mark.
I never look at reviews, so I don't know. I had no idea Fate Be Changed had that many. I'll look at the first few
I remember you telling.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that almost 4 years ago when you were on the show, because I was saying I read all of my reviews.
I am not that evolved yet. I am not going to.
Well, I tell people, I mean, it's okay to read the reviews. Don't feel like if somebody gives you a bad review, you don't have to go into a shell and put the covers over your head and say, I'm never writing again. You don't have to do that. Sometimes people are just haters.
It's really not personal, although books are very personal to people who write them, because it's like art. It is art. And so, but you really can't take it personally since they don't personally know you. But I can understand why you say you don't read them, but I read them because I have inquiring minds have to know. I just have
the good thing is that they're hitting the mark. People are reading the books, which is wonderful.
Yes. If you have 1,300 reviews, that's a lot of sales.
Yes.
So that's the main thing.
The series is a popular, it's a pretty popular series. And I think it's probably the only other book I have with more is The Boyfriend Project, which was the first book in my romance series from a few years ago. That's the only one I think that had more reviews than Almost There. So I'll look at the numbers. I just don't read the reviews. But if I go on Amazon,
okay, so you do look at the numbers. Okay,
I can see the numbers just because the other day I had to get the ISBN for The Boyfriend Project, and that's what I noticed. I was like, oh wow, that's a lot of reviews, and then click.
Whatever
so
works.
Now, just very quickly, because I know that we only have a couple of minutes left. But with this series, do you get assigned a Disney story, so to speak, or do you get to choose the story that you want to expand and twist?
So they brought me in to do The Princess and the Frog because they wanted a Black author to do it, and I'd actually approached them about doing The Princess and the Frog as an adult romance, because they also have a series for that. But they gave me options for, it was initially a 2-book deal, and they gave me options for the second book, or because they know what they want to come up. But I don't even know what the other books were, because as soon as my editor said Brave, I said, yes, that's one of my favorite Disney movies. So, but I do have others coming out. Again, I can't talk about them because they don't like you to do that. But they gave me, what about this book? And what about this movie? And so, yeah, it's kind of a discussion. And they want to know what you want to do. But I love Disney, so I can't think of anything that I would not say yes to, because I'm just such a huge Disney fan. So, yeah.
Well, have you been on a Disney cruise since you are a Disney fan?
So many, yeah. I think
okay.
got number 18 coming up in a couple of months. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the Disney cruise ship actually docks in New Orleans, so that makes it even easier.
Yeah, it has for a couple of years. They don't have it coming back. They don't have it on the schedule for 2025 yet, but I sure hope they bring it back, because I have taken several out of New Orleans. But it also goes out of Port Canaveral. I go to Disney all the time, so I can do that, and Galveston, which is only a few hours drive for me. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to be on one of those boats no matter what.
Well, Farrah, thank you so much for coming back on the show and letting us know all the great stuff you're doing now and what you have planned for the future. And continued success to you writing all these books.
Thanks so much. It's always a good time here. So I'm glad I was able to come back.
Well, we enjoyed having you back. Thanks so much. Please stay in touch.
I shall. Thank y'all.
And good luck at Black Ink.
Thanks.
Okay. So that was Farrah Rochon. And I didn't know she had been on all that many Disney cruises. I thought you were just going to tell me she went once or twice. But she said she loves it and she means it. So our next guest, this is a very interesting topic. Her name is Casey Grant. I think this is the guest because this is the only person in the waiting room. So
about to find out.
Yeah, we're about to find out when she comes on camera and with the sound and the video. But her book is she's a Black aviation advocate, and she has a new book. It's called, what's the name of her book? Something in the sky, Stars in the Sky. And she was one of the first Black flight attendants in the airline industry. So the book is about that, but she has other books as well, and they're all on Black aviation. So her name is Casey Grant, and I hope she comes on screens. And while we're waiting for her to come on, I do want to let people know about the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards. And the deadline is approaching. It's June 3rd. So if you want to enter, if you have a children's book and you want to enter it in the awards process, go to BlackAuthorsMatterBookAwards.com, and all the information is there. You can submit your book, and then we'll be announcing the finalists, and because that one goes through a judging process. It's different from Black Authors Matter TV Awards. That's based on voting from the viewers. But the children's books go through a panel of judges that meets twice, and then they score the books, and then the finalists come from there. So if you haven't submitted your book already, then again, go to BlackAuthorsMatterBookAwards.com, and all the information is there submitting. So we're waiting for Casey Grant to come on screen. She changed her name. There we go. And
she wanted to make a grand entrance.
She wanted to build up.
Turn your mic on.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Okay. No, I've been on since about 10 till trying to unmute and everything. So hello everybody.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, your book that you wrote was very interesting, and then when we got a little more research on what you do, you've been writing and an advocate for Black aviation for a long time. So, but this particular book, Stars in the Sky, do you have a copy of your Stars in the Sky book handy?
Oh, I don't have it handy.
Okay, well, that's okay.
If I can do this though. You see it? You see it on the wall?
Oh, okay.
There's all three.
Okay. All right. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
But it's about flight attendants, or it used to be called airline stewardesses. I'm not sure exactly when it became flight attendants. I think when men started becoming flight attendants.
Absolutely.
Okay, then they changed the name, but it used to be stewardesses. And if you look at any of the old movies that are on airplanes, they're always a stewardess when they refer to them.
I just thought the flight attendants didn't want to be called stewardesses anymore.
No, when they let men do it, they couldn't call them men the stewards.
No, they called them stewards for a while, and then we just changed it in the 80s, and everyone became a flight attendant because of that. But it's not offensive. I don't believe. I don't know how individuals feel about it, but a stewardess was the glamorous one. That's where we wore the high heels and we served hot meals, and the makeup was immaculately applied. And so I'm from the era of the stewardess and the flight attendants. And it's a different mindset, I believe. I think that stewardess has also thought of it as a career. And I think that these people now maybe just think of it as a job sometimes. So I think there's a different mindset.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you come in from overseas and you look at some of the flight attendants from some of the other countries, they still wear the very beautiful uniforms. Their makeup is immaculately done. And then you see our Southwest attendants come in and
and I have to be careful. I agree with you, and I have to be careful not to say too much because I do fly, and I don't want them to.
We can't have that.
Food, on the floor. But it is such a difference, and I flew international for the last 10 years of my career. I flew for 35 years, and it is the truth. When we would get off the airplane, a few of us would freshen up our makeup and look nice. But the international flight attendants, they are immaculate. They all look good as they walked off that airplane. And some of us were sleepy and we didn't care. Our feet hurt. And so it's a different appearance. But the international flight attendants, oh no, they never look like that.
So you actually had to wear heels?
In the beginning, I started flying in 71. My whole life started because my father was in the Air Force. So travel was in my blood at that point. And I say I'm among the first Black flight attendants, or among the flight attendants, is because it all started in 1956 when Patricia Banks Edmondson took all the airlines to court and sued for discrimination. And she won her case. And at that point, the airlines were ordered to hire Blacks. Delta did not hire their first Black until 66. And it was because of affirmative action and being pushed and forced to do so. And Patricia Murphy was the first one for Delta Airlines. And I was brought in 71. And I say I'm among because they sprinkled how they hired the flight attendants, far and in between. But so we had to wear high heels all the time. We had to weigh a certain amount of weight. If you weighed more than that, you could get fired. You had to wear a girdle. We all looked like clones. Our hair had to be cut the same way or pulled up in a bob. And so there was nothing about being an individual. You were property of the airlines and you looked the same. Everyone looked the same. So yes, we had to wear heels all the time. We never could take our heels off.
Oh my goodness, I know your feet were hurting.
Yes, that's why it's hard to smile sometimes. Like,
now, in the early days of travel on flight, because my first flight, I think I was like 10, maybe. But they were still serving meals when I flew. The first, early days of flying, they actually served a full meal, hot meal.
Yes.
And then it went to like sandwiches, and then it just left. I don't know.
If you get some peanuts now.
Now I think if you fly internationally, they still serve.
You get food if you fly internationally, and if you fly business class, you get some really good food.
Oh, sure. First class and business. Oh my goodness, you get excellent food. It's worth the ticket, and the air and the space. The seats are so much better. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If one's budget allows, or you have enough points to do, you have enough points to do a upgrade, then maybe when we go on our cruise next year, our Mediterranean cruise, I can try.
I got lucky and I upgraded my flight when I flew to Europe last year. I was able to upgrade my flight and to business class. And I didn't realize that at business class, I actually got the little pod where you're not really sitting next to somebody and you can lean all the way back in your seat, like all the way back. You have your own TV. I didn't even want the plane to land.
I know.
It's in heaven.
I know. And you know what? I haven't had that experience yet. I haven't been on one of those yet.
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't think I was going to have it. I thought that was for like super first class. I didn't realize that business class got all of that. So I was pleasantly surprised when they told me this is where I was sitting. I was like, wow.
What
Yeah.
airline was it? Do you remember which airline?
It was American, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about being a flight attendant, other than the having to look like a clone.
Well, first of all, it's the best job ever, ever, ever. I flew for 35 years, and as my book Stars in the Sky, which is available Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble, it tells the story of us breaking the color barrier and fighting and dealing with discrimination, dealing with that from the customers and from the passengers and from the pilot, the crew members. And it was different stories for all of us, but all of us really, for every airline, we all have a common story of how we really had to be brave and how we had to hold our heads up high. And we were determined to keep the job and to do the job, because we did not really realize how we were pioneers, but and that how we performed would also either close or open the doors for others to follow. And so that was a big responsibility, but I don't think that we really realized that we were more determined as an individual that no one was going to deny us that opportunity to have the job. So for 35 years, I flew domestic, and for the last 10 years, I flew international, which was a difference in attitude and people and the different cultures and so forth. So it was a different experience to fly international.
Wow. Now, what made you? At that time, I would have to call it bravery. What gave you the bravery to say, this is the job that I want? I mean, because you were a trailblazer, so I'm sure that you didn't see a lot of people who looked like you prior to you pursuing being a flight attendant or stewardess in that case.
Yes. Well, my father was Air Force, as I said. So I started school in England. I lived in Tripoli, North Africa, and California. So travel and the exposure to different people was in my spirit and in my soul. So I knew I wanted to see other lifestyles and travel all over the world. Only way I could see it happening was joining the service. And my girlfriend joined ahead of me, and she said, don't do it. It's terrible. It's hard. And so I said, okay. And so at that point, my boss, when I worked at the University of Illinois, my boss is the one that encouraged me to do it, actually, because Jet had articles on Black girls trying to get the job and being denied. So I never thought I would become a stewardess. The idea was planted by my boss. And when she followed through and everything started to grow, then I started to dream. But there was no need in dreaming in something that was impossible, because society was not accepting us to do that. And so once I got it, I wasn't going to let it go. That's for sure. You see how wonderful the job is, and adventurous, and meeting movie stars and having a good time, and only working a couple of days a week. Shoot, nobody was taking that from me.
I know that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what year did you stop? When did you retire from flying as a flight attendant?
Yeah, 2005.
Okay.
So I've been retired a while. Yeah.
So since then, do you work with, are there organizations you work with that encourage other people to enter the field, or is it just basically wide open now for everyone?
Well, I don't think that the quota is still up to par. Delta just got their second female captain. And the first one was probably about 5 years ago. So I think in different fields, we still are behind in filling that the positions of people of color. I work with Gigi Coleman, who is Betsy Coleman's great niece. And she has an academy that it encourages the youth to go into aviation and so forth. And so I do deal with her in helping and speaking with the students. And I go to schools and I speak about, the different positions in aviation. It's not just stewardess and captain. You can become a doctor, you can become a nurse, you can go in air traffic control, management. So I try to encourage us to go into aviation, which I think is a field that people are not introduced to. And so that's my mission. And in my books, when I go around with my book signings, it's another thing. So I'm all about making sure we know the Black flight attendants' history. Our part in history needs to be known and recognized. And so that is my mission when I am out talking and book signings, to encourage our youth and to also get the story out.
Now, as you're talking with kids, you also created Black Aviation Day.
It's International Black Aviation Day. IBAD. That's the acronym, and I love it. IBAD. And so, I created that. It's February the 16th, and at that point, my third book, the Red Book, is formatted for the school system. And so it is in several schools, in the public libraries and the school libraries and everything, so that the kids have a book for that reference. Because in that book, I highlight so many other pioneers in aviation that's not known, and to give them that opportunity to read and to dream. And to dream. So yes, International Black Aviation Day, February the 16th.
Okay, well, that's good to know for next year, so we can, if the show, well, the week of whenever that falls, we can announce it on the show.
Please, yes, please, I'd love that. Yeah, we have
because Saturday was National Black Authors Day. This past Saturday.
Yes.
And, I found about that I forgot how I found out about it, but then I found out normally I don't find out about these days until after they passed, or, on the day. But this time I found out about the National Black Authors Day like a week before. Okay. So I was able to, promote it and talk about it. And I had post about it and had a lot of people comment. I got a lot of that post got a lot of traction. So I need to say February 16th is International Black Aviation Day.
Correct.
Okay.
And the acronym is IBAD.
Okay.
I love it. IBAD.
You have to say with attitude, IBAD. So yes.
Like, what makes that even more special is that you got into this field and there weren't a lot of people who looked like you, but you were one of the trailblazers. So there are probably young Black girls who saw what was possible, and they became flight attendants because they saw you. And now with IBAD, and you are encouraging more young African Americans to get into this field. How does that feel that, you may not have had trailblazers, but you became the trailblazer?
You know what? Sometimes I just have to pinch myself because I'm so busy doing what I'm doing that I don't have a lot of time until someone points it out to me and says, how does it feel? Then I have to think about, oh, it feels pretty good, actually. It's my mission. It's my passion. It isn't about Casey Grant. It's about the story of the Black flight attendants. And as I like to say, Delta did not know a lot of things that we were going through. So it's not as though the company wasn't supportive. We never told Delta. We just dealt with the situations and we all stuck together. And I also like to let your audience know that your flight attendant is not there to serve you peanuts or water or Coca-Cola if you're lucky to get one. That is the second most important safety feature on your airplane. We are safety features. We go through training every year to be able to deal with first aid, evacuations, and so forth. And so you need to have your audience, I would like for them to realize that you need to have more respect for the flight attendants and all that they go through, because your lives are in their hands. Should any emergency come up, they know how to deal with and to be able to execute an evacuation in a timely manner. So it's very important that you realize how important that flight attendant is.
Well, I will tell you, the flight attendants always make me feel better. I remember one time I was flying and we were going through turbulence. I looked at the flight attendants, and the flight attendants were sitting there laughing and talking. I'm like, okay, if they're relaxing, I'm going to relax.
I do the same thing, Rhonda. I look at the flight attendants. And well, in addition to that, and I'm not a drinker, but on flights, I get I get my glass of wine. Now now they changed everything. So you have to basically get it before you get on the plane, or you have to wait, like depending on what's going on. But one flight I was on, the pilot announced we were gonna have some turbulence during the descent. And we weren't all that far from where we were going, where the destination. So I went back like I was going to the bathroom. I said to the flight attendant, ma'am, I cannot stand turbulence. So do you have some wine? Can you just give me one small bottles, and I'll drink it real fast. And so then by the time the turbulence got there, I was not feeling any pain at all. So but I look at the flight attendants. If they're calm, then I'm calm.
Absolutely. That's your best indicator. And we also have a poker face, so you sometimes will never know. But but the point is that absolutely, we're trained, we're human. We're going to be, if it's a fearful situations, we can become upset also. But because of our training, we feel comfortable in dealing with whatever situation. I never had anything that made me want to quit. I always felt that the pilots were competent. Turbulence is
part of it.
It's part of it. And as I tell everyone, shoot, that's our opportunity. We get to sit down. So we're like, hit another air bump.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
So no, turbulence is just a bump in the road.
Yeah, you have to really, and I get when you fly all the time, I'm sure it's like that. I don't fly that often. I might fly 2 or 3 times a year. I know Rhonda is always going somewhere, but I don't fly that much. So, and I always hope for a sunny day when I'm leaving and when I'm landing. But I pray for the pilots to be operating at their optimum.
Sure.
On the ground. That's what because that's the only thing holding you up there. 2 or 4 engines, however many it is, and some competent pilots.
That's right. Oh no, you're absolutely right. You say a prayer, release it, and let it go, because he wants to come home too.
Right. Yes, exactly. So, but a lot of them start off in the Air Force. It's a good recruiting field or ground for the airlines. Probably what do you call it? Where you go, it's like a pool where they go from there. Some of them intend to go into commercial flying when they're in the Air Force.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. They get their training, and that's why I felt very confident. For me, it was a lot of the Vietnam vets that came about. And that's the best training you could ever have, is a fighter pilot flying a commercial plane. He's maneuvering, being shot at. Now you come back and you're cruising friendly skies. So the mentality was awfully different. They had excellent training. And so when they come for a commercial airline, you pray for them, you release it, and you let it go.
Now, how are the passengers? Did you see a change in passengers from when you started? Passenger attitudes, or just the relationship between them and the flight attendants? Did you notice a shift in that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, and that goes along with stewardess. It also goes along with, I think, the name. I think the glamour of the name and the respect that people did. And then you also have different class of people back then. Not everybody could fly. Tickets were, so you had a different class of people that were flying back then. Now, we don't like to say it out loud, but when deregulation came about and everybody could afford a ticket, we would say, now we have the ground Greyhound people on the airplane, and it's a different attitude of a bus than an airplane. You know, the glamour wasn't there anymore. So yes, we got different attitudes. Now they really, as I say over and over again, you just don't realize touching a flight attendant is a federal offense. And I think that the airlines need to stretch that even more, because touching a flight attendant can get you 5 to 10 years in jail.
And it should.
And it should, absolutely. So back then they knew. Back then they understood the threat. I think it should be widely advertised more than it is. And maybe some of these people with these bad attitudes. I was attacked in 80. A passenger was drunk, and we had her arrested. She did go to jail that night and stayed there for, I believe, almost 2 weeks. So we dealt with it in court. I did take her to court because of that, she bit me, and she also injured my back. So I did press charges.
Really, because you told her to put her seatbelt on, huh?
Well, actually, it was worse than that. It's all in the book, and it's a good story. But she had been jilted. Her boyfriend was supposedly taking her to Europe to marry her, and then he decided not to. And she knocked his tooth out on the airplane, and one thing led to another.
Oh, so he was on the flight.
Oh yes,
okay.
I separated him. He walked up to me with his tooth in his hand, and that's how the incident started. And we had to restrain her, and definitely had her arrested when we landed in New York.
Sounds like he dodged a bullet, because if she was saying it before.
Well, I don't. You know what? I don't know. He might have dodged that bullet, but the reason he decided not to marry her was because his common law wife. So he might have. Yeah. So the scandal continues. It was more than. Yeah, he didn't want to lose a lot of stuff.
Y'all go ahead and order this book, because I'm sure that there's a lot more juicy parts to this story.
Oh, there's a lot of, and it's not only, this book is really a lot of history also. So it's not a fluff book. It's a lot of things in there, hijacking, just the trials and tribulations that we went through dealing with racism. So I think you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to go, oh my goodness, I never knew. Those are some of the things you will say in reading Stars in the Sky.
Wow, I'm looking forward to reading it. It sounds amazing. Thank you for trailblazing like you've done. And I know you say you don't have the book with you, but you do have the books behind you.
I do. Hold on, I'll go off screen for a second.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. The magic.
Yes, Stars in the Sky. This is beautiful.
What a pretty cover.
That is beautiful. And it's really, it is what it says it is. You have the uniform from the past.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Y'all don't wear hats.
But you know what? When I came on, we just were issued new uniforms, and I dodged the hat. We had a little beanie we had to wear. So Delta kind of updated it, but we did have a beanie, or you had to wear a scarf. So there was something you had to still wear in your hair. So if you had a ponytail, you had to wear a scarf around that ponytail.
Oh, okay. Now, was the beanie, did it have the company logo? Is that what that was part of the whole uniform?
No, it wasn't. It was just blue.
Oh,
it was just it was a little stretchy thing. You pull it out, put it on it's like a do-rag cap now. So yes, it's just a beanie that we had to wear. You were in full uniform then.
That was amazing. So I just thought it was a fascinating, even the press release was fascinating. So I said, well, we've got to have her on the show. So we can about this.
It's just amazing to see the evolution, but you're still continuing to inspire people to get into this into this industry.
And you still are glamorous. So
thank you.
That's why I said you wanted to make an entrance, because
it was technology. No, it is. It's just the best job in the whole world, and it really is a good career. And like I said, not just being a flight attendant, not just being a captain, that you have to go into the field. And there's so many different things, being a nurse, but you get to travel and you get to see the world and you get to meet different people. And there's nothing but, that's an education that you just can't even pay for, to be, in Athens, in Greece, and seeing the, the Acropolis and so forth, the history, and in Rome, and you're seeing all the biblical, going to the cathedrals. It's such an enhancement to life to be able to travel all over. And I've met presidents. I've met President Obama, President Carter, President Clinton, because of knowing a lot of interesting people that know interesting people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Casey. We're at the end of our time. But thank you for being a guest on the show. This is
my pleasure.
An amazing conversation, and just hearing about the industry. We haven't had anybody that's been in the industry on the show before, and you really shed some light on just how everything works in there, and historically gave us some good information. So thank you so much for your service, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Stars in the Sky, Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble.
Bye, Casey.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening. God bless you.
Thank you, and you too. God bless you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, that was Casey Grant, former stewardess / flight attendant, and she blazed some trails in aviation. So our final guest, as you know, from time to time, we have bookstore owners on the show. So our final guest for tonight is the bookstore owner. She's based in California, so she's on Pacific time.
Yeah, it's nice and daylight over there.
Yeah, the sun is still up. And her store is fairly new. It's called a multicultural bookstore, and she's in Richmond, California. I think that's where it is. And her name is Tamara. Is it
Tamara?
Tamara?
Shiloh.
Okay.
Like tomorrow, but just Tamara.
Tamara. Like
Okay.
Today, tomorrow.
Shiloh. And welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me.
And
Well, we appreciate you being here.
yeah, your bookstore is fairly new, is that correct?
Well, the bookstore here in Richmond, I've had since for 6 years. The one in Las Vegas opened in November.
Okay, so you have a second location in another state.
Yes, I do. I lived in Las Vegas for about 8 years, 2000 to 2008. So I met a lot of cool people there, and one friend that I maintain a friendship with. We always said we were going to do something together. We both have nonprofits, so we do work together in that capacity. She does literacy, and I teach Black history to kids and teachers. I teach teachers how to teach Black history all year, but I also have a after school and summer bridge program after school. So she and I have always said we were going to do something else, and so she and I are partners in the store in Las Vegas. Yeah, so this is our big hurrah.
But I was just about to ask how you can manage owning 2 different bookstores in 2 different cities.
No, I have help. Yeah, she runs the one in Las Vegas. I go there once a month and give her a hand. She's still kind of new at this, but she's doing really well. The community there has really stepped up. She's in the historical West Side, which is where Black folks used to be mostly, but with everything else now it's mostly Latino, but it's still considered the historic West Side. And so the community has really stepped up, and they're really excited about having a bookstore there. And we are multicultural, but when you walk in, you do see what our focus is.
Now, is the one in Las Vegas named the same name?
Yes, it's called Multicultural Bookstore Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now is Richmond, is it Southern or Northern California?
Northern. I'm right across the bay from San Francisco, and right
Okay.
next door to Oakland.
Okay. So that's
So you
not, it's close to Las
get a
Vegas.
pretty good variety of people.
Say it again.
I'm saying you get a pretty good variety of customers then from
Yeah, although things have been slow, we're still climbing out of the pandemic, actually. And with bookstore, I mean, we just have to, I really have to think outside the box all the time. So we have different types of events going on here. But I have relationships with schools and some of the nonprofits, and that's how, to be honest, how I kept my doors open because of those relationships. But just so you know, Barnes and Noble is not paying their mortgage with selling books. They're doing other things as well. I mean, no. Yeah,
right.
it takes a lot, but it's a, you love it, you have a passion for it, so you do whatever it takes to make it work. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do have a
I-
variety of people coming through, yes.
Yeah, my husband and I had a brick and mortar store for 10 years, so I understand what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
You have to
kind of
do
store?
more than just sell books. In Houston, and it was from 2000 to 2010. And we were online. We started online, and then we had the store, and then we went back online. And we actually now we mostly do marketing and promotion. That's part of what the show does.
Oh,
We
okay.
we put on the National Black Book Festival every year here in Houston. So we're in the more book promotion business than
Okay.
direct selling. And I'm an author, so I write books. So
Me too. I'm an author. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw that. I saw that you were an author.
Yeah.
And Oprah Daily recommended your bookstore. And wasn't that recent?
She did it twice. Actually, in 2020, when we were going through the pandemic, they did a big thing about supporting Black bookstores. And I was one of the bookstores. And then I only found out after that article this year, somebody said, "Oh my God, you're in Oprah." I'm like, "Again?" And so, yeah, so I really feel blessed about that, that, we were honored again to be in that article. So yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Now, a lot of Black bookstores, and just about everyone that we had on the show that was open in 2020, said they got a boost from all of the things that happened after George Floyd.
Oh yeah, Mr. Floyd, let me tell you that unfortunately that did give us a big boost. As a matter of fact, I didn't have any social justice books in my bookstore. None, zero. And when that all happened, that's all all white people wanted was social justice books, how to get it together. And oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And so now we have a wonderful section of social justice books, but it was an eye opener for me. I mean, I don't know, we just never thought of it. No one had ever asked for a book on social justice, which after that happened, and we thought, okay, why? Because the book business, that kind of got dropped in my lap, it wasn't planned or anything. So, so it was, a learning process for me. But yeah, I mean, after that, it was like, wow, that's really interesting that no one had ever come into the bookstore and said, wow, do you have such and such or any of those? Because they weren't new books. The social justice books have been around forever, but it was just new to our store,
Right.
many of them. And then, of course, a lot of folks started writing social justice books, and many social justice books for children came out during that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many bookstores across the country had similar stories that during 2020, so many people of other nationalities were coming to Black bookstores wanting to learn and wanting to understand. Did you find that? I know you said that, you were able to order a lot of books for them, but did you find that to be also an opportunity for conversation and learning at the same time?
Well, I don't know so much then because we started out the Multicultural Bookstore, okay? And so we've always had books of all cultures. So that was kind of the what people liked about the bookstore, especially teachers and parents, believe it or not, because they were always looking for information about other cultures, and they're having trouble finding it. Now, I have a model that's a little different from most bookstores. 90% of the books in my bookstore are face forward, covers forward, okay? So when you walk into that bookstore, it's like WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. I mean, kids love it because they see themselves on the covers of books where they hadn't before, especially our children. And then parents and teachers like it because they don't have to know the names of authors or the names of books because they're in their face. The covers that that we don't have like that are the adult books and some of the social justice books. But for the most part, all of the books in the store, especially all the children's books, are all face forward. So folks can, really enjoy and not have to think about it. Oh my God, what was the name of the author or what was the name of the book? And I know how that is because even as a bookstore owner, good Lord, they think we've read every book in the store. I mean, oh my
You
God.
know what? I'm an author, and even I think that and I don't know, it's just something that pops in my mind when I'll see the bookstore manager. Have you read this? Was this good?
You're
I'm like,
right.
I didn't read it yet.
Exactly. And I'll just say, no, I haven't gotten to it yet. I have a long list, it's actually, it's all personal. I would say with bookstore owners, we read what we like or we'll read what's really popular because, if we have a sense of what's popular, then yeah, we're going to read something from that book so that we can have a conversation with someone about the book, but it's not possible. I mean, if you're running a store, you're doing a lot more than standing behind the counter selling books. That's for sure.
Well, you're trying to figure out how to sell more books,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
reading them necessarily.
Right. Exactly.
Or whatever, because we started selling other things other than books. That was really,
Well, me too. I sell puzzles and I sell educational games. Yeah.
yeah, there were more of them when we had our store.
Yeah.
It was almost like a renaissance of Black products when we had our store.
Oh, okay.
People were buying figurines. It was huge. They were buying all kinds of things.
Well, we're going to start selling African jewelry and African cloth. Yeah. We just ran into someone in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact, who shared with us how, we can, increase our revenue, if you will, by selling African jewelry. So we're excited. We just received it this week, so we actually haven't done that, but I'm doing an event this weekend, so I'm going to take some with me just to see, how that goes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a bookstore, you have to see what people stop and look at.
Right.
What catches their eye. That's how you kind of know.
That's true.
What they're wanting to buy, because they have to look at it before they buy it.
And being an author is being a business person too. I mean, and I tell all authors, this is a business, okay? Unless you seriously are only looking at it as a hobby, this is a business and you have to treat it like one.
This is true. This is
very true. Or even when I'm out with my books, because I have, I have something for everybody. I've read books for children.
Oh, really? Well, then you need to send me your books. Yes, I can put them in the stores, both stores.
Okay. Well, I'll send you one and then a card with the rest of them on it. Then you can see.
Okay, well, just let me know.
What would be interested of interest.
That's a good segue into the next question I was going to ask is how can authors get their books into your stores?
usually just send me an email and let me know they have a book, which they do. And I just ask them to send me a copy and I take a look at it. And more times than not, I say yes. I've had maybe one or two. I think the biggest problem I have are, okay, the authors who want you to spend $25 for this. Okay. I mean,
Exactly. For a brochure.
oh my God.
I get it.
Or a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I have to tell them, look, parents know what books cost. They know what to expect in the books. You cannot just, I mean, and so what I have learned, and I, I do this almost every week, I swear to God, if somebody wants to publish or they want me to take their book. One lady last week, I hope she's not watching. Anyway, I'm telling you all, okay, first of all, it's a picture book, but it had way too many words on the pages. And in the back of the book, there were like 8 blank pages. I'm like, okay, first of all, there's probably 8 pages more if you had separate, it was, I get this a lot. Or, oh my God, and this is the one that kills me, is when they don't have a professional person edit their books.
Right.
I don't care if you have a degree in journalism. Do not try to do that because you are going to, I swear to you, trust me when I tell you.
It's hard to edit your own work.
It's hard.
Fresh eyes.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
I mean, I'm writing children's books, and so why would I need an editor for a children's book? I remember the first time, well, someone told me to do that, and I let Karen get a hold of my book, and I was like, it was the most embarrassing thing ever. And she said to me, look, it's not that you don't know this, it's just you write the way you talk. So, you just, I mean, no commas, no. I mean, the clothes, I was like, but I mean, I see it a lot, and I just really tell folks, please don't, no, not your cousin that is real smart in English, or, spend a couple of dollars to make sure it's done right. And then, the graphics now, I mean, what AI has helped a bunch of folks and me too, because my great grandson was a character in my books, and the first 2, and it's taking me forever because I'm writing a series. And so now it was a 4th grader. Now he's in the 10th grade, is 6 feet tall. So he has sized out of the character. So now I need to get an illustrator, and AI produces some heck of great images. You do have to be careful with them because I have illustrators, real ones, who have shown me some of the flaws in AI illustrations.
You
But
have to look at those pictures carefully because AI will do some crazy things to your pictures.
Oh my
You have
God.
a similar look too. Yeah, I mean, people think you can't tell AI.
Oh, but you can.
Tell
Oh,
AI.
absolutely.
It's to me, they all look the same to me.
Unless you get a good one. I mean, so they create what you tell them.
Yeah.
When you want it to be special, you have to say a bigger nose, bigger ears, bigger mouth, a fro. I don't know. They've gotten pretty good with the fros, though. I'm like, wow. But
I still prefer to use an illustrator because I like my work to be unique.
Yes.
And I don't want to put the illustrators out of business.
That's another thing too.
We need illustrators. AI can't replace humans.
Well, no.
And,
in some respects, but you're right. You're right. And I know
some things, I mean, it just accumulates what's already out there. It doesn't create something new.
Right. Well, that's true.
It accumulates what's already been done. So if you want something different, unique, then it has to come from here or here, a heart.
In the heart.
Right. So, but some people, we live in a microwave society where people want everything now. They want to do everything fast. They want to do their book fast. They want to come out with a book and have it sell. And when you have that thought not to build something that's institutionally sound, but just it's like a fad, you just want to try to be something for now just to make a quick buck, then you might make a few quick bucks, but that's not a way for long-term success.
That's true. In my case, okay, I am in the hurry up phase only because, for one, two books have been out for a while, and I have 5 more that need to be done, and I'm feeling behind, so I need, I do need to get an illustrator that can illustrate the first 2. And once I'm on a roll, I can finish, because I wrote these books 20 years ago before I knew anything about the market or anything about the business, and it was all clip art. But believe it or not, I sold quite a few books because they're about Black inventors and scientists. And so folks didn't know any of these people, so they didn't too much care, but it looked like they were really interested in the information, and I do, and that's my shtick right now is Black history, right? So, yeah.
Well, what you said about every book needs an editor. When I do writing workshops and aspiring author workshops, and that's one of my main points. Every book needs to be edited by an editor,
right?
A proofreader, at least,
right?
Not, and depending on the word count, it's very affordable. But you don't want to put your information out there with your name on it, and like you were saying, charging $25 for something. And those extra pages, you know what that is? Most of the KDP for Amazon, you have to have a certain number of pages for your book to publish it. And so they normally will say you can't have so many in a row that are blank. I think there's 2 blank pages in a row so they might not have gone through KDP, but in order to get the word count to get the book published, and they ran out of words.
Well, see, and the thing with hers is, like I said, she called it a picture book. So there were way too many words on each page to begin with. So if she had taken even a paragraph, I mean, because, folks have to understand picture book is what it is, so it's a picture with 4 or 5
It was a way for her to be creative. To eat up those 8 pages.
It was too much. It was too much. So she could have, it filled up those 8 pages easily. Okay.
The moral of the story is that for independent authors who are wanting to do everything themselves, you've got to make sure that your book is going to be taken seriously by these bookstores, because it's your name on the line too. If you're selling something that's less than par, you don't want people to say, "Oh, don't go over there because she just sells anything," or her book, or the book she's selling. So I mean, your name is on the line too. So if these authors want to be taken seriously and they want to compete with the traditionally published authors, then they've got to take the entire craft seriously, not just hurry up and write the book.
That's right.
I mean, put time into writing it, put time into designing it, and not just time, but money as well.
Right, exactly.
You can't get everything for free.
Right. So what is your book? We're just talking all over you. What's your book?
Well, I have quite a few books. I have 7 novels. I have 17 anthologies. I've been writing for a little while now.
You don't have that many years behind you. Come on now.
Stop.
Okay. Honestly, 17.
I'll send you my website. You had 17. So Rhonda, you have 17 anthologies you're in, or that you did?
17 anthologies that I'm in. The anthology that I curated myself was A New Renaissance, which is a celebration of African American fiction. So
but I didn't know. See, I've been on the show. I've known Rhonda for years, and I've been on the show with her for 4 years. I didn't know she was in 17 anthologies. That's the first time I heard that number.
Okay, so what's your book?
I told you I was a 23-time published author. Where do you think all those books came from?
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't focus on it like that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so your book that you wrote is,
Well, I have quite a few books. My first book, I write women's fiction, contemporary women's fiction.
okay,
So Cheating in the Next Room, A Dead Rose, Putting It Back Together, Some Wounds Never Heal, Trust, no, not, well, Trust too, but after Some Wounds Never Heal was Twilight, Twylite, and then Trust. And then, like I said, between those books, I had all of the anthologies. And then I did A New Renaissance. Now, Cheating in the Next Room, which is my first book, this is the 20th year anniversary of that book. So I'll be re-releasing that one toward the end of the year. I'm going to kind of reimagine the story and put it back out there.
okay, okay, well, send me your list too.
I sure will.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that I tell people about bookstores. A bookstore doesn't make any money unless they sell a book.
Right.
Having your book sitting on their shelf, they make nothing.
Yeah, it may make you feel good.
Right.
You can take it to
But if
Instagram
nobody
next to your
finds
book.
it, yeah, so they can't afford to curate a bunch of books nobody wants to buy. How long would that last?
Right, not very long, as a matter of fact. That's why I say you really have to think outside the box.
You do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
And so people unless you've had a bookstore, it's hard to explain the bookstore lifestyle, ownership lifestyle to someone who has it's difficult to explain.
Yeah.
And you don't do it for money. I don't know any rich bookstore owners.
Thank
The
you.
black ones anyway.
Right. It has to be a passion. And if they are rich, they're doing something else.
Yeah, they were rich
They have a
before
job.
they owned the bookstore.
Right,
Or they had
right.
something going on the side that made them rich.
Right,
And they do the
Job.
bookstore out of love. It's
right,
a love for literature and books and the industry and wanting to share with people. A lot of it is sharing with children because
right.
if children can adopt a love for reading, yeah, at a young age, they'll have that for the rest of their lives.
Right, right. That's very true. We started out a children's bookstore, actually. And so
Okay.
it's been heck trying to get people to see that we're not just a children's bookstore. We were only a children's bookstore for probably 6 months to a year. And when I got the bookstore, I started out with 3 people, and then it's just me for the past 5 years. But yeah, once you say children's books, that's all they see or hear, I'm like, okay. So it's kind of tough, but I think they kind of get it now because I took the children's part off the name. So
yeah, it's called the first in marketing. They call it the first in, first out, or last out. I think it's first in, last out. Meaning the first thing you hear, that's what's retained.
right.
And it's hard to get rid of it.
It is.
And that's why first impressions are so important.
Right. We even changed the logo, so that's helped a lot too, right?
Yeah, your new customers will know you under the new
Right.
umbrella of whatever you're doing, but your original people, it might take them a minute to
Right.
get it. Well, thank you for being a guest on the show, and congratulations on having a second location. That's
Thank you very
exciting.
much. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. I met 2 wonderful authors, and I can add your books to my store. I'm excited about that. Yeah, so
I'm excited about that as well. And we appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. And just bringing this is the end of the night. It's 10 o'clock at night where I am. So it's always good when we have somebody with a really enjoyable spirit to be the last guest on the show. So thank you for sharing your spirit with us.
Oh, not a problem. I really enjoyed this. Thank you both so much for having me. And hopefully we'll talk again soon, but be sure to send me your books.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. Take
Have
care.
have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's the end of our show for this week. Get ready for next week's amazing Black Authors Matter TV award show. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, and you'll get to support the winners, the ones you know and the ones that are new to you. And it starts at 7 like the show. The whole show will be nothing but awards. And if you haven't had a chance, go on our Facebook page and look at the promo video about the award show. That'll give you an idea of what to expect. But this will be our 4th award show, and it's very exciting. So that's all we have for this week. Rhonda, do you have any parting words?
Nope, just keep reading. Thank you so much for helping us to grow the show and to support so many authors. And thank you for supporting us. We appreciate you.
Okay, I'm Gwen Richardson signing off. We'll see you next week on another episode of Black Authors Matter TV.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.